Oh my goodness. Wow, thank you. Right before I got on stage, my daughter so kindly pointed out that there's 1 million people here today, to not be nervous, and I'm gonna do great. So that was super helpful. Thank you, Rain. And she missed school today, so this is a really big day for her. Not for me, for her. So, how did I end up here? Dawn Marie, mother, educator, mentor, fairly new to the community. What brought me here today? Why are you here to listen to me? Well, I'll take it back a little bit. I'm originally from Wabash, South Dakota. If you don't know where that's at, it's in the northeast corner of South Dakota. It resides on the Sisseton Wahpeton Oyate tribe, which is my tribe. I graduated from there and I made it down to USD, Vermilion. Go Yotes! Woo! Yes. After I graduated, I immediately accepted a job at Boys Town, which is in Omaha, Nebraska. Made it down there and immediately got pregnant. So I ran my butt back up north to be with my mom to have Rain. I accepted a position at an after-school program at Enemy Swim Day School, where I started my now 10 years in after school working with children, family, youth, education, all the good stuff. What I hadn't realized moving back home is that I would learn more about my culture. I would learn more about myself, learn more about my family. It was really eye-opening to be there, things that I didn't realize had happened to my family. I had discovered that my grandma and her siblings were a part of the boarding schools. And if you're not familiar with this, with the residential boarding schools that took over Indigenous lives and still impact communities today, I would highly encourage you to look into it because it's in our backyard. And also what people don't realize is it wasn't that long ago. So I had a conversation with my great aunt. I started asking her about it because I wanted to know. I wanted to know my roots. I wanted to know where I came from. I wanted to know why we are where we are as Indigenous people. And it was incredibly hard for her to continue that conversation. She didn't get far into it. It was very painful for her to relive those things. After seeing that and experiencing more at Enemy Swim, working with communities, really understanding what the youth was going through, the Indigenous people were going through, I started to develop this mentality of how dare I not? Because it wasn't that long ago that the opportunities that I had in front of me didn't exist for people who look like me. Statistics will say that to graduate as an Indigenous person, that's a big deal. The numbers are out there. And then to graduate from college as a first-generation college student, that's huge too. So the how dare I not mentality stuck with me. After having a child, it was the same thing. I needed to do right by her. I needed to take in every opportunity I possibly could to make sure I was doing right by her, doing right by the community, doing right by my family, my grandparents. And that's how I chose to exist. I pushed myself through things. I strived for things to make sure I was doing right by them. So, pushing myself as hard as I did, one of my first big wins was receiving the National After-School Association 2019 Next Generation of Leaders. Whew, that's a mouthful. I was exposed to going to New York City with my mom. She was able to see me on stage get presented this award, and it was so special. I loved having her there. As you can see, there was a couple more things that happened. I won a few awards. But I was doing all these things and pushing myself so hard to make sure I was doing it for other people. Because by way of proximity, by way of growing up in a small town, I felt like I'd made it. I've peaked. I never really established what success looked like for me. I never really strived to better myself. It was just, what can I do for the community? How can I give back? How can I take those opportunities, again, that my family didn't get prior? So, going back to grad school was a no-brainer for me. Even in the midst of being mom, director, all these extra things, I decided to go to grad school 2018 and graduated in 2020. Wow, what a time to graduate, right? And I graduated with my master's in social work. And after receiving my master's, I decided to move to Sioux Falls. I accepted a position at Joe Foss Axtell Park Building. It resides in a space that's an alternative setting. So if you're from Sioux Falls and you don't know this, I'll give you a little background. It's for students ages 14 to 21. At some point or another, they fell behind. They were there for credit recovery. They deserved a different space to learn because the quote-unquote traditional setting wasn't right for them. So they would come to us for various reasons, and before I actually encountered any students, before I actually stepped foot in the building, I wanted to make sure I understood the community. So again, pandemic time, right? I moved in the middle of a pandemic, got down here. I said, okay, what's the first thing I can do? Chamber mixer. So, go to the first open chamber mixer since the pandemic closed everything down. I'm starting to walk around the room, get a feel for things, introducing myself, and this is a little bit how it went. To no fault of their own, if you're here and you're one of them, you don't know what you don't know, but this is how it went. Hi, I'm Dawn Marie. I'm Joe Foss, Axtell Park Building. Just moved here. Oh, like you moved here and chose to work there? Isn't that where the bad kids go? But you chose that, like you know that, okay. Yep. With every draining interaction, I was kind of questioning myself. Why did I just uproot my family, leave my mom, and come down here to be with the bad kids? What is this? Little did I know, these were going to be some of the best human beings I'd ever met. But society had already given up on them just because of the place where they landed to learn differently. So I get to my first day, I'm incredibly nervous. I get in and all the teachers are lined up. It's a small space. There's like 8 teachers lined up. Again, we're just getting back from the pandemic. Students start walking in. Every student was greeted with a warm hug, even though we weren't supposed to. with a warm hug, with a I missed you, oh my gosh, how are you, how are things, how's your mom, how's your sister, how's this, how's that. Every kid was seen, heard, known, recognized. I'm like, what the heck are these people talking about at this mixer? This is the greatest place on earth. In education, if you have been in education at all, you know that having a teacher know a child's first name, that's a big deal already. And here these kids are walking in, and all the teachers know what's going on in their lives, and they're excited to see them. Now, there does come a part where they are there for a reason. Something might have happened. And as educators, or even just people who work with people, sometimes peopling is hard. It became a little taxing on myself, and I started to see that I needed some help. If you had noticed throughout this whole conversation, my motivation was other people. Everything I pushed myself to do, everything I was striving for was to prove things for others, and I wasn't really thinking of myself. And so I became incredibly ill. I actually landed in the hospital. It was the whole thing. I wasn't taking care of my body, and I was tired. I was giving myself to the kids every day. I was coming home to rain, depleted, tired, not being the best mom I could be, and I knew that. I was blessed to meet Vonnie, one of my first experiences at the chamber mixer, and at the time he told me what he does, and I didn't really understand the concept whatsoever, but it worked out because they were gonna do a teacher cohort that following summer, and I signed up for it. Now I had no clue what this was gonna be. And if you've been through Leaders of Tomorrow, you'll know that this isn't your average leadership course. And so I get there. Rain actually attended every single class with me, so she should honestly receive a certificate. I'm still looking for it. Thank you. So I get there, and the first thing they do is say, okay, pull out your phones, put it in selfie mode, say 3 nice things about yourself out loud, and I challenge you to record it. And we're all looking at each other like, are these fools serious? This is so embarrassing. 3 nice things about myself? I couldn't come up with 3 nice things about myself. And here I spend every day pumping other people up, doing the thing, and I couldn't come up with something nice to say about me. So I knew at that moment that this was gonna be truly special. I knew it was gonna challenge me to think of myself first, to make sure I could give back to my kids, my daughter, the community in the right way that they deserved. So I go through the program. There was a really tough question asked, and it rocked me. They asked, would you have your child live exactly the way you have lived thus far? And even given the cool things I had done, the relationships I've made, feeling like a pretty elite person in education, I still confidently said no. I wouldn't want Rain to come home tired the way I was. I wouldn't want Rain to come home and neglect herself and not be able to feel good about herself. I would want her to give 3 nice things to say to herself confidently. That's what she deserved. But then I realized that's what I deserved too. So after the program got done, I invited Tamian to come in to just shadow me for a day because there was an opportunity to give students a Leaders of Tomorrow program or something at the time. We didn't really know. And I would love to be a fly on the wall for that day to see what he saw because honestly, I forgot he was there. It was business as usual. Like, my students would come in, hug, hug, hug. How was your weekend? What do we got going on? Talk to me, tell me what you got. And again, we'd run into those things where it'd say, well, I had to sleep in my car again. Well, it was freezing last night. Yeah, I had nowhere to stay. All right, let's go to my office. Let's sit down. Let's talk about this. There was really challenging conversations that went on, and he witnessed it. But there was also really good things that happened too. At any point in the day at Joe Foss, there could be a graduation, which is so special. Literally any moment. It could be like 8 a.m. and we'd have to get our happy pants on and be celebrating. It was beautiful. But this roller coaster of a day, he got to see that. And so when the opportunity presented itself to do a Leaders of Tomorrow, Next Generation, I was like, let's go. I need help. These kids deserve more. Because unfortunately, as we know, education, it is very testing driven, right? We kind of lose those life skills in those moments to actually teach them things to be successful outside of school. So when this opportunity came up, I was like, please come in the door. Let's get this started. So this last spring, we selected, I think it was 19 or 20 kids, and we started the program. You guys, the transformation between the start and finish of these 19 weeks was unreal. So every day, it was once a week, Win Wednesday. We'd give our wins. We'd talk about our wins. And we started with, okay, everybody go around the room. Tell us one thing that you're proud of this week. The first week, most of them were, well, I got out of bed today. And you know what? That was perfectly fine, because knowing what I knew about a lot of my students, they might have had a rough night before, so them just getting to school, even if it wasn't on time, was perfectly acceptable. They made it. They got there that day, and I was so proud of them, and I was happy to see them regardless, because I knew they were safe, and I knew they were going to be by me, and I knew that I could help them the best way I could. So we start moving along through the weeks. Their wins started to shift. We started to see them feeling really confident in themselves. We started to see them talking about meditating and journaling and being mindful, all these beautiful words, all these life skills that make me incredibly excited for our future generation to talk about. There was one particular student that started by talking of a really tough relationship he had with his dad. There would often be days where he would admit that they would get in fights. He didn't know how to approach him. And through this, he learned effective communication to be able to talk to his dad, to navigate the way his dad would get angry. How valuable is that? Effective communication. How is that not a class? So at the end of this class, we all adopted a better you. It's better for everyone. And I really fully started to believe in that myself, because even though they were going through the class, I was going through it again. I was experiencing it again, and I was resetting my goals again. I was recalibrating what success looked like to me because it had shifted. I wasn't peaking myself. I wasn't limiting myself. I was making sure that I was adjusting so that I could be the best version to give back to my community, to give back to my students, to give back to Rain. That's what I took. And wholeheartedly, I feel it. I feel good. Am I incredibly sweaty and still nervous to be up here? Yes. I'm not a speaker by trade, disclaimer. But I do this and I stand up here and I share these things for them. For the people that don't have a voice. For the people that don't have a platform with 1 million people in a room. That's who I do this for. And although I am incredibly uncomfortable, I knew it was my role, I knew it was my job to make sure I shared these things. But I also know standing here today, I'm only able to do this because I started taking care of myself first. So I want to challenge you guys to really think. What have you been limited by? Have you set your peaks? Have you said, oh, I did good enough today, so better than the average, right? When you start to say yes to yourself, the right people, resources, opportunities start to show up. Again, I've only been here 2 years, 2.5 years, and somehow I landed on this stage. So clearly saying yes to myself did something. I'm here. I made it. But now I'm going to recalibrate after this, and I'm going to strive for that next big thing. And continue to do what I do, and continue to be the person that can lead and inspire the next generation. So, even though when you don't know what the future holds, the best investment you can make is in yourself. And that is my idea worth doing. Thank you.